Welcome to the Akashic Reading Podcast, presented by AkashicReading.com, the place where you can learn to access your soul's wisdom, or at least stop digging the hole any deeper. I'm your host, Terry Uktana, and today we'll be exploring the Hedge maze, a type of oracle which doesn't offer disconnected, random, or generic wisdom to any seeker. What is being presented by it is specifically for that soul in that moment, and while it might not make sense immediately, time spent allowing the experience and wisdom to unpack its insights during and after the meditation can unfold entire new aspects of or opportunities for the soul. Most people who know about or work with the Akashics deal almost exclusively with the Akashic Library and the records stored there. Within the library, there are records of every soul which has ever come into existence and everything which has ever happened in their lives. There are also records on every topic and all aspects of existence from corporations to stellar phenomena. Everything that has ever happened and is happening now exists in its records, and there are beings called librarians who dedicate their attention and efforts to its continued functioning. Other beings, including we who are embodied, utilize the library for a great many purposes such as self-improvement. Unfortunately, in the past few centuries or so, people have come to believe this is all the Akashics contain and that it can only be accessed via the help of the librarians or other beings who mediate on our behalf. Luckily, this is not actually the case. The Akashics is not just about books and information, but is a vast landscape full of various ecologies, civilizations, and life forms, only some of which are humanoid. There is one grand city, and this is where the Akashic Library resides, yet most of the Akashics are without any architectural structures at all. This doesn't mean it's a wilderness of chaos or without form. There are gardens of every variety, fields cultivated for every reason imaginable, areas designated simply for play and joy and happiness, and others which exist simply to exist. As life grows increasingly chaotic and events unfold with amazing speed, approaching life from a problem-solving or stop-the-pain method can seem like bailing a sinking boat with a thimble or trying to run through a food fight with a napkin for protection. Working with aspects of the Akashics which approach things more holistically can offer clearer, more coherent, and practical solutions, which therefore allows us to stop the cycle of reaction and counter-reaction, and instead move forward through the chaos to manifest our goals and life successfully. Many of us reach a point where we feel there must be more to life than this, more to us than just the daily grind. Or sudden changes in our lives call into question what we've been doing and what we should do next. In times like these, our hearts can break open and we can feel a calling to be our authentic selves even when we have no idea what that might actually be. Looking for new options or opportunities and what is possible means approaching ourselves, the Akashics, and the current phase of our life with openness and possibly curiosity. I liken this to the unfolding of a flower, like a rose or a lotus. If we're looking to find more of our potential, to explore what we're capable of or how we can empower ourselves to be more fully our enlightened, evolved selves, then it's helpful to explore the Hedge maze. A maze is a path which can either branch in many different directions or lead without diverging to its goal. Mazes can be any size and constructed from almost anything. Children solve paper mazes in school by drawing from entrance to exit with a pen or a pencil. Wooden hand or desk versions of mazes are sold online. Halloween haunted houses are mazes we voluntarily enter for entertainment, as are harvest time corn mazes. Temporary mazes have been constructed of all kinds of materials to make a point or provide an experience, and mazes have been carved into floors to make them a permanent part of buildings or outdoor spaces. Humans have had and used mazes throughout history. Originally, mazes were used as a means to guide a person on a spiritual journey. Ancient labyrinths were designed to be serene, introspective, and followed a single circuitous path. Yet there are also mazes which move the person through them in order to facilitate spiritual practices, meditation, and healing. Mazes with branches cause this process to be more interactive and physically challenging, which can add layers of learning and unfolding to the experience. Unlike labyrinths, mazes were traditionally created in order to be disorienting and confusing, cutting the person off from their habitual modes of navigating the world and bringing the person into a potent version of mindfulness. One of the most efficacious forms of maze is the hedge maze. Like corn mazes, they're formed from plants which are grown in a specific layout so as to create paths which can be walked to a goal. And like corn mazes, they're designed to have dead ends, false loops, and confusing twists and turns. However, unlike corn mazes, they're not temporary or seasonal, but utilize evergreen shrubs or hedge plants to create living walls which can seem and sometimes are impenetrable. As all things have energy, the energy of a hedge maze is somewhat like the living forest in fairy tales. While corn is a plant which has grown symbiotically with humans where it cannot continue to thrive without our interventions, and we have come to need it as a staple of urban life, ignoring the overproduction of it currently leading to corn being in practically everything, hedge plants can be planted and encouraged to grow in a certain place and way, but they do so for the benefit of the local ecology, of their connections with the land and the ecosystem, which may or may not include us. The energy of hedge mazes and their relationship with us is more of equals meeting, and it can seem as if there's always something more we haven't quite caught on to or understood fully, which is why they feature so prominently in stories where the protagonist is transformed through a difficult journey, or as a challenge which seems to be a physical impediment, but is really about discovering something new about themselves and who they can be. Much like Dorothy walking the yellow brick road, which was a maze, she thought the point was to find a way home, and the real point was to discover the reality of herself and her life with all the potential and love it holds. The hedge maze in the Akashics takes these features and uses them in order to create an oracle, which can provide insight and deep personal unfolding to the individual. An oracle is someone or something which provides insight, wise counsel, and sometimes foresight into what is potential for people or communities, often informed by deities or beings which supports humans and their enterprises. The hedge maze, manifesting directly within and for the all that is, which includes each individual soul, uses the maze features of guiding a person on their current phase of their soul journey in order to create an oracular experience where they're able to discover, interact with, and experience what is most important for them to know and be in this now. To do this, the hedge maze can appear differently to different seekers. For some, it can appear made of smallish shrubs which are easily seen over, and the seeker can see others walking through and interacting with statues, beings, objects, and much more. It can seem friendly and inviting and like walking in a park on a sunny day. For others, the hedges are chest-high, and while it's possible to see over them, it's not clear how far they extend, who is or isn't walking through them, or where paths might lead. Commonly, the hedge maze appears very tall, like impenetrable walls of green extending beyond the highest reach of a person's fingers and not allowing any glimpse of what is beyond the next turning. The maze is able to alter its paths as needed for the seeker, so no area is ever overcrowded, nor is any shared by two people. No seeker is ever lost or stuck, but is led among paths which end in an oracular experience which shows rather than tells the person what is most important for them, not just concerning one particular pain point or question in this life, but for them as a soul living an embodied life. These experiences are not pure intellectual information, lessons, or message, but interactive experiences, so are meant to be touched, changed, interacted with, stood in and on, and much more. The more you interact with them physically, the more you'll get out of the experience. Oracles have a historical reputation for being difficult to interpret. Like fortune cookies, they seem to give advice which can be interpreted in any number of ways, direct us to do things but don't explain in what context we should do them, and never truly come to the point. This is often because the person requesting the oracle's advice is asking a very specific question outside of the context of the situation. For example, a person wants to know why they can't stop smoking and nothing they try allows them to quit no matter how much they want to. The answer is they're in an abusive relationship, a dead-end job, suffer from CPTSD and depression, and if they were to stop smoking without addressing these bigger issues, they'd have no means of coping with their current situation and so would devolve into mental or emotional or physical issues which would prevent them from being a functional adult. When an oracle responds, it's going to respond to this big picture rather than say, Here, just try this new brand of gum which makes you quit smoking. And therein lies quite a bit of the confusion. Oracles give answers which are often very much a response to the question or need of the person, but focus on the entire person rather than one focal point issue. They respond with what is most relevant and will bring the most positive support and unfolding, but not what is necessarily the most direct, easy, or uncomplicated solution. Life is tapestried. Souls are entire universes unto themselves, and putting those two things together creates worlds which are ever unfolding, even in the most mundane of activities. So an oracle is going to respond in kind, which for a mind set on solving a problem or hyper-focused on a result can seem like they've been handed random spiritual concept salad, which has no bearing on the subject at hand. Because of this, in the Hedge maze, there is a central point where a massive tree rises above it all. If at any time a seeker is confused, needs a break, or wants to reorient themselves, they can look for the tree and a path will be opened for them to go there and regain their equilibrium. From the tree, one can see the extent of the maze and the various oracle experiences in progress. There's an entire ecosystem which resides in the tree, and it can be enlightening to spend time there aside from other pursuits in the maze. The Hedge maze doesn't offer disconnected, random, or generic wisdom to any seeker. What is being presented is specifically for that soul in that moment, and while it might not make sense immediately, time spent allowing the experience and wisdom to unpack its insights during and after the meditation can unfold entire new aspects of or opportunities for the soul. When a seeker feels they're ready to be done visiting the Hedge maze for the moment, they can easily return to the entrance simply by turning and intending to do so. Within a few steps, they'll be out again and standing looking at the entrance. For those who wish to explore the Hedge maze for themselves, I've created a guided journey which is available on my YouTube channel. It's called The Hedge Maze Akashic Journey, Consulting an Akashic Oracle, and I'll put a link to it in the podcast description. And that's all the time we have this week. If you're interested in knowing more, check out my website, akashicreading.com. Thank you to my patron of honor this week, Jennifer Keene. If you're enjoying this podcast, please consider supporting it by subscribing on Patreon. For just $5 a month, you can join in weekly patron-only classes, see all my other offerings, and get regular updates about what I'm working on at patreon.com/TerryUktana. Thanks. Bye.